So we are going to get started. This is the Regional School District Number 19 Building Committee for E.O. Smith High School, Wednesday, October 14th, 2020, 6:33 p.m. Do we do attendance for these?
Not usually.
We
got everybody
usually
on
don't,
screen.
but yeah, we usually
Got
don't,
people.
yeah.
We can take note of who's present in the
Yeah.
in the Zoom. So I will turn it over to Janice.
Okay, welcome everybody. I think I'll call the meeting to order. I think you all received the agenda and some other supporting documents. I think there's a change order that we need to review. There's also a roof construction bill from J.E. Shea Electric. We also have the standard contract that that Tony and I think Tim looked at pretty carefully, so they might have some additional questions, but Sharon just at 5:30, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you thinking of calling the meeting to order, or did you call it to order?
I've called it to order. I'm sorry. I thought I already did that. I did already do it. I was just rolling right along.
I just wanted to start on a light note. Thank you.
I'm rolling this along, Jim.
You go, Janice. You go.
Well, never mind. I think it was because of my drive home was so slow. I'm like, zooming ahead here. Okay, so I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the response at 5:30. We got responses from the community.
So Sharon emailed out to everyone, and I want to make sure everyone saw the responses from the lawyer concerning the contract, and specifically responding to questions that the various board members have. So I want to make sure we give people a chance to look at that. So that's the third item on our agenda. So we can start with the update on the roof and solar projects. So I don't know if Janice, or do you want to kind of?
Paul?
I can offer an update
Okay.
on that.
Yeah.
Just to back up one step, Sharon, I did not receive an email about the responses, so I don't know if I was included on that, but and maybe I wasn't intended.
No, I would like you to have them.
Okay. Just
Thank you, Paul.
to start with the roof project, the contractor is essentially done at this point. They have had the manufacturer come out to the roof to do an inspection of the roof. And we were waiting on the inspection number. They actually have a physical number that the manufacturer uses. And we finally received that, and that was sent on to Dennis. And so we have the manufacturer sign off. The next step for us would be to do a final punch list, because the contractor has done their own punch list. We would do a punch list, and that is scheduled for next week at this point. And because the manufacturer's already walked the roof and the contractor has already signed off saying that they have completed everything, our hope is that it will be a relatively minor punch list if there are any things that we see that are not, that we think are incomplete. But we will be walking the roof next week. There are no payment requisitions for Greenwood, the roofing contractor, this evening. We do have, there are 3 items in terms of change orders or potential change orders that we're following. And we've received paperwork relatively late from the contractor on these. We asked for them well in advance so we'd have time to review and prepare formal change orders, but we didn't receive them until just earlier this week. So there's nothing that's holding up schedule per se on the contractor. We've gone over items that that they claimed were additional material and additional labor that they worked on in certain areas of the roof. And we have gone over those with him and agree that there were some conditions which they added membrane roofing and different flashing that we did not call for that really were required. So we're satisfied with that. The good news is that that list of items that they had worked on, there are about 5 or 6 applicable items. Those are well offset by the credit that we usually receive back at the end of a project like this one. We have a roof deck replacement credit. I think we've talked about that in the past, to the tune of about $90,000. The list of extras that the contractor has submitted that we've reviewed with him come to about half of that, or between 40 and 45,000 is the number that we're looking at in terms of these 6 or 7 areas that they did additional work and it provided additional material for the job. We don't have to approve those this evening. Because we don't have anything set up formally. We just received them and reviewed them. But just to give you the heads up that the extras for the 45,000 and then the credit for the additional 45,000, because we'll be subtracting from the 90, we'll prepare that for next month's meeting. The last item on the roof that we really wanted to mention was, and this is a change order request that we had talked about last month. It is for the guardrail on the back of the building. We have the paperwork for that. The price was submitted, and I don't have the number in front of me. It was $22,000 and change.
Yeah.
22,191, and it's for the screen wall, Paul.
That's
not to
right.
confuse it with a rail.
That's correct. Screen. Okay, we'll make sure I call that correct. Screen wall. And the 22,191 we've looked at in the past and reviewed it and think it's a fair number for the amount of metal and installation that's involved on the back of the building. That one item has a lead time. So if the committee were to select that item and approve it, we would give the contractor the notice to go ahead and construct that. We've received from them that it's a 3-week lead time in manufacturing the item off-site. Then they would bring it to the school and it would take less than a week. It would take 3 or 4 days to install it in the back of the building. So from today, if we were to approve that, it would then be installed in about a month. 3 weeks in fabrication and then a week in installation. So that's the only time critical element of the roof project is to decide, I think, whether the screen wall should go ahead or not.
Could I ask a question about that? And I'm sure, I think Dennis has talked to you about the concern that the bond is coming due in December. And this is, under other to discuss later.
Sure.
Will this change order, seeing as the roof is complete, will this hold up the completion? The information that says that the roof is complete?
No. Well, it would put it this way. We have substantial completion now of the roof because the manufacturer has weighed in and says that they have checked it out and they're ready to issue their warranty on the roof. Even if there are small punch list items that we see a few items that we want them to correct or to finish. So it won't hold up your closeout of the project or completion of the project.
Okay.
And in fact, the contractor has not submitted any closeout paperwork yet. And that we have asked them to do that over the past month, is to start submitting. Usually they submit the warranty, the care and information about the roofing membrane itself and all the flashings and materials used on the project. So that is something we will receive from them, we'll review it, and then ultimately you get it for your files. Dennis has it, so he'll have the warranty and all the information on the roof in one location.
And we would submit that to the state?
No, the state does like to see a copy of the warranty. But the rest of the closeout paperwork, I don't believe they care to see.
Okay.
Um,
So here's, you know, just depending on what the board, you know, decides as far as this change order is concerned, that shouldn't impact their ability to move forward quickly as possible. I would like to see, I'd like to see that paperwork sooner rather than later, so that we can, if we have to have a special meeting of the subcommittee, so that all of that is squared away. That actually is kind of, that would be the plan, to make sure that we have that squared away so that the state does have everything that they need. The warranty, any additional paperwork that they might need to support the fact that it's done, so that we don't have to extend our bond.
Okay.
So,
We can ask them to complete all of this and certainly be in time for your next meeting. We should be able to really have everything done for that, as far as I can tell, including the warranty and the paperwork. And they should be able to, we can work with them on the final balance of the last change order, the credit and the extra, and then put that into their final payment requisition even.
Thank you.
so based on what Sharon is saying too, do we have to wait until next month to have another meeting to do those approvals? In a couple of weeks, can we actually, we could meet again and approve those additional change orders to move this along, correct?
Yes, you could.
Okay,
But I think I would consider acting tonight on the screen
Right.
wall, just because that will get the contractor moving that much quicker.
yeah.
Hey, Paul,
Tony, go ahead.
I have a question. I just want to make sure. Based upon what I have here, it looks like we still have 2 Greenwood change orders that we reviewed and approved, one for the vent and one for the taper quote, that they have not yet included in a request for payment. Is that right?
Correct. They have not invoiced those, and again, they have no payment requisition into us right now.
So with those 2, one was 39.6, one was almost 30. Then with the 22,191, that adds up to about
50,000.
90, right? 90,000. 39, 29, and 20.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Now, the
correct.
45 you were talking about is an additional for other items we haven't even seen yet, right?
That's right. Yes, that's for additional flashings and membrane that they did at about 6 locations on the roof. They provided some additional insulation and column covers on one roof. And what I'd like to do is, I don't have that paperwork in front of me, but for the meeting, for next meeting, whether it's next month or even sooner, we can prepare that to share on the screen to show the actual locations and the pictures, and we've documented that. And so you know that we've reviewed it and find it to be acceptable ultimately.
Okay, so if you take that 90 and the additional 45, so say 40 to 45, say we're between 130 and 135. Is there anything else that, I mean, other than the walk in the, or is that pretty much what we're expecting to be the final amounts that we're going to be paying out?
135, and then we'll get the full credit back. Of
Well,
the
135, right, and then we'll get the credit back.
credit back of 90, so we're looking at a delta of about 45,000.
Yeah. And
Correct.
that falls within what, you know, we have a retainage and we have additional
Oh, yeah.
dollars. But we're not we're pretty much expecting, for the most part, that should be everything.
That
Maybe
is.
some minimal amounts, but that should be everything.
The only thing we have not asked the contractor, and usually this is done at the very end of the project, any final change order that they do, if there's a change in their bonding cost, we ask them to submit that, because if a project is bonded at a certain cost and there are change order extras which increase the bonding cost, then the contractor is entitled to submit the difference in the bond. And usually that is a very, very small, it's usually 1 or 2% of the change in contract. So if the total contract changed by 45,000 delta, then they would, if they were sharp, their bonding company could say, we want an additional 1% of that to cover that in case there was a default. And that would be a cost that they would submit to you in a final change order. And
That's
this
a
team
small-
doesn't want to see bonding change orders until the very end of the project.
Okay, so that's a small number. So basically, it sounds like we're looking at, after applying the credit, we may have another $45,000 to $50,000 that we have to fund.
Total, yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have other questions at this point about Paul's report?
Well,
Do-
I think if anybody has any questions on the screen wall, it acts as two things. It's a security barrier, keep people off the roof on that shallow, on the roof that has the barn near it. Second is, there's a lot of problems with snow drifts in that area. That fall, the snow would drop down on the two egress doors below that roof. And that's the intent, is to try to capture some of that snow.
Okay.
We want to put,
Yeah, maybe, could I have a motion to accept the change order proposal from Greenwood Industries? Is that a yes, Tony?
yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I can second.
okay, thank you, Nancy. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Did Tim say he couldn't make it?
Yeah, he couldn't make it.
Okay,
So
okay,
Paul, we'll give him the go-ahead to go ahead and start that.
Yeah.
That
Correct.
period.
Yeah.
right?
We
Yeah,
will
great.
contact them immediately and let them know it passed and to please proceed.
Okay, great.
good, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, can we now talk about the standard contract for the, this renewable energy credits between Connecticut Light and Power and Regional School District 19? Go
I
ahead.
have one really quick thing I wanted to,
Yeah.
because I guess have we talked about the report, the inspection report? Well, really we have. There were a number of little things they noted. Have those all been done now? The 7 or 8
Yeah,
things?
that's my question, yeah.
Yeah, that was under number 1, so that would continue with the
Okay.
update on the roof. Thank you.
That's a great question. The answer to that is yes. They have found, and that's typical for a manufacturer, when they come onto the roof, they document anything they find. Contractor gets a copy of that, and then they go out and they make sure that all of those are picked up, similar to our punch list. Of course, the manufacturer wants that because they're the ones on the hook for the warranty down the road.
Right.
So my understanding is that the contractors completed all of those and sent us the letter that with the authorization number that they did.
Okay, so one of those items was referred to as an owner item. The missing vertical expansion joint detail. There was like 8 items for the contractor, and then there was 1 for the owner. Is that
Bottom of page 1.
missing vertical expansion joint detail? So maybe it's install vertical expansion joint detail as necessary. I don't know what that is, but
I will check into that. That may be a non-roofing item, because obviously on the roof, you have wall sections that are vertical that may not have roofing on them.
oh yeah, I'm looking. It was the picture was 11.3, and the photo looks like it's the brick wall.
Yeah.
And it's like a joint there that
It's a caulking type material.
yeah, it looks like it's a caulking thing.
That would be
Okay.
something probably we'll have to take care of, and the same with the chimney. They pointed out there was some cracking in the brick. We're gonna put
But
some sealer in that.
Those are just they're telling. Those have nothing to do with their warranty, right?
Right,
Well,
that's
they-
nothing to do with them, right?
Yeah, it doesn't affect the warranty. However, they're smart in pointing these out, because if you ever get a leak in one of these items,
They're gonna.
then we may call them and say, hey, we have a roof leak. And they will immediately say, yeah, but we told you about this item and this item. Have you
Right.
taken care of it?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not uncommon to hear comments like that.
Okay.
Nancy, you had some concerns on that too, I think, in your email?
Yes, that's been answered, because I wasn't sure what the story was, mostly about that crack. I mean, as a homeowner, you look at that and you think like, oh my God, but then there are a whole lot of other little issues, and I just wondered how those are going to be dealt with. That's all. So thanks, Janice. I appreciate
Okay.
it.
when we do our punch list with Silver Petroselli, I'm sure we're going to find some issues and some items that were either damaged or whatever that the contractor will have to be to come forward and repair. They've been doing it pretty much on, when we ask for something to be repaired, they've been repairing it. But there's going to be
Okay.
stuff that they haven't seen yet or we haven't seen yet until we walk it down.
Okay. So moving on to the standard contract that was presented for the sale of the state of Connecticut Class 1, the renewable energy credits. I know that Tony and Tim had quite a few questions that it seems like we did get a response from Matt Rinelli. So do people want to take a look at that?
I haven't seen it yet, Janice.
Okay.
I could take a,
I emailed it late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at
I see it,
5:30.
yeah.
Yep.
6:15.
Oh, 6:15. Okay, sorry.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I just saw
Yeah.
it.
So,
It's a little late,
It's all right. That's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
Yes.
Paul, maybe the first thing I had was the size, the system. They're saying it's 333 kilowatts. Weren't we looking at something that was somewhat larger than that when we started this?
Initially, it was considerably larger, and I know it was scaled back at one point because of the roofs that we could use at the
Oh, that's right.
Even with the scale back, I thought because I think we were originally up over 500, weren't we?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Originally, yes.
Yeah,
And I thought
so,
even
too.
with the scale back, we were still the mid 400s or so. I guess I just wondered, it seemed to me like it got a lot lower than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I'll have to confirm that with electrical to see the exact number.
Because I think that we were kind of going out saying we thought it could cover like 40% of our, and maybe not anymore. We need to kind of know that. And if we have to adjust that, we should know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the other question would be the payback on that too,
Yes, it would. It would affect those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have kind of gone out and made some statements, or I want to make sure for talking points, we're not overstating the case.
Right.
Sure.
I'm still waiting for mine to download. I'm having.
If we could go through quickly if you'd like. I have them up here, so I'm happy to share.
that'd be good.
So the first question was in regards to the 333 kilowatts, and Matt's response was this should be the nameplate size of the system that's being installed. He didn't have access to the project specification or bid confirmation sheet for the project to confirm that. But he did speak with Michael Chambers, and he confirmed that that was the correct size.
God.
At number 2, or the next one, which was on page 3, was in regards to the maximum annual quantity of ZREX or LREX that the buyer is required to purchase, being 518. So he had stated that that's the maximum number of RECs for which we will be paid annually after the start of the delivery term. If we generate more, we will not receive additional payment. If we generate less, we will receive less payment. The amount is calculated. The amount is calculated based essentially on the installed capacity size, fixed tilt, and other factors related to the site and the estimated amount of sunlight that it receives.
It does say in the contract that if we generate more than the 518, we can, if we can find we could sell it.
Right. That's what I was wondering too, if we could do that. If
Yeah,
could
we
actually
can.
sell
We
it.
can
Is
do
that possible to find a seller though? And where do you find the seller? Like
Well,
United
buyer.
Illuminating or what? A buyer.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm wondering if, and I know this only because I have family who do this for a living.
Oh, good. Well, that's good.
No, there's conflict of interest there, my
Oh.
friend.
Whoops.
Not a shot. If
Sorry.
we would have to go with somebody else. But
Oh,
but there are companies. There's a lot of small energy companies out there right now.
yeah, that's
who-
true. That's true.
Who
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah,
and I don't know what the
yeah.
process is because I've never really asked. I don't know if those would be the people that we would take bids from or whatever the case may be.
It's probably all those companies that get listed under my CL&P contract or Eversource contract. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one is also page 3, the performance assurance amount at 5,180. He stated that the amount is determined by a formula, the Rex price time, or the Rex times the price times 0.2. It looks like what he put there.
Yeah.
Intended to provide Eversource with assurance that the project will be constructed, because they're passing over other bids to,
I see.
in favor of our project.
Yeah, there is a provision somewhere, I can't remember where it was, might have been in the defaults or failure to perform on time, that they can double that later, but that's only if we fail. Oh, here it is, in Article 9. But it's not, it's at first I had a small copy and I couldn't tell whether it was 51,000 or 5,000, so 5,000 is not a huge number.
Okay, Donnie.
All right.
Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay, so page 3, the need to specify a delivery term date, which is currently blank. So in this regard, we must be confident that all seller obligations are or will be met. And he said, correct. We have to select a delivery term date by which we are confident that we will achieve COD. Recommends consulting with our architect as to the status and projected completion and operation date. We will not receive ZREC payments until after the delivery term date. And in general, he said in general, it sounds like we're pretty far along, so an earlier date should be fine. But
Yeah,
certainly we would defer.
I'm just trying to look at the, it's section, Article 4 is the conditions. And we deal with that later. I mean, that's the ones we need to just look through. Look, a lot of them are pretty simple.
Mhm.
One of them is that we've executed the interconnection agreement. I know you said later on that we should have a draft. That's going to be a pretty standard. Do we have a copy of that yet? The interconnection agreement.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, we just need to make sure we haven't executed that. Okay, and then one of the interesting ones is that the buyer, they have received regulatory approval, but it doesn't, I don't know where they are in that process, or Paul, when they would normally get their regulatory approval.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I've also asked about, a time frame for this, and I did not receive that as of late today. So I don't have, we were trying to estimate the completion date based on where they are today, and I don't have that yet. We know that they're still a few weeks out. They're doing all the wire runs and conduits now.
So let me just ask you, on the ZREX, which was supposedly, or LREX, that we're selling, do we have those now? I mean, as we spoke last month, we were still waiting for them to open up and apply for them.
Well, I think this is a preliminary yes, but we don't have anything in writing yet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because there's things we have to certify in writing that we're going to get, that we have them, and that we're so there's things that have to happen before we can do that. I guess that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay, so this agreement won't be signed until we know those issues. Okay.
But this is due the 21st.
Yeah, that's
correct?
what I'm kind of.
I'm thinking-
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm getting somewhat of an education. I don't know how you can all be so calm. I'm like, no deadlines, there are things missing. There's just, even when we're talking about confidence level that only 45,000 to 50,000 is what we're, accountable for. How do we really know that? I mean, I know it's my first time on a building committee, but I'm like, I don't know how you have the confidence, because there's so many different groups that have to be coordinated, and you have to trust everybody, that they can do it,
Where does that October 21st date come from? Is that from Eversource? Is that from the state? I mean,
Yeah, it's from
October.
Eversource, on the standard contract. it states that.
Oh, that's what they just have it on the first. I don't know if that's really real. I mean, until they can tell us they have all their regulatory approval, they haven't met their obligations. So, I think we need to kind of,
That's a short window.
yeah, we need to.
It is.
I'm
Yeah.
sure we're going to need more time than that.
It's a
So I
week.
think that has to be addressed.
Paul, is that an option? Because I mean, and Dennis, maybe you can add to that, because in our conversation, it was my understanding that that was a pretty set deadline for our agreement to be signed in order for them to guarantee that we're in that program.
All
Exactly.
right.
Is that accurate?
And well, that's different date than all our obligations are keyed off the delivery. What is it called? The delivery term start, and that's defined as, which is different from that effective date of the contract. Selected as delivery date. And in 2.2, it says, let's see.
Pages 11 through 12.
Yeah, it's on page let's see, okay.
I could try to push back. So in some of the answers to some of these questions, I think it says at Article 5, pages 14 through 16, that their response was that this is the standard program agreement used by this program and has been revised by Pura. I could try to push back if you would like, but the deadline to make the payment and sign the contract is October 1st.
Right.
Please advise if you want me to ask Eversource for a change.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the things is the effective date. Section 2.2 is the delivery term date, which is the blank. And the options they're giving us there are July 1st, 2021, October 1st, 2021, January 1st, 2022, and April 1st, 2022. And that's when the 15 years starts. So we may have a fair amount of time to get, because we don't have to satisfy those conditions, I don't believe, until the delivery term start date. So, but I guess the question would be, if we sign the contract and we don't hit the delivery term start date, what are we liable for,
Right.
And maybe council can just point to where it says that or tell us what that is. But, and then I guess we have to figure out but I don't know if there's I mean, it sounds like the earliest date they're giving us an option for is July 1st of next year.
Right. And we should be done, Dennis, by the end of November, correct?
Yeah. That was,
Right.
yeah,
But that includes getting all the regulatory approvals, getting all the, so there's a lot of things that will need to be done even when we have the completion, I think, or there's a few things.
Yeah, and I think if we look at the if we're looking at the fourth question, Tony, of yours, it says at page 3, the need to specify a delivery term date start.
That's where those dates are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it's talking about, it's okay to, we should be okay going with the earlier date. How, based on what we receive, but we're not going to receive, so, and that we won't start getting payments for our energy, the energy that we're making. But Dennis, and this is just completely my lack of experience with it, we could still be generating our own energy during that time, correct? And that would defray from our own energy costs, or no?
Paul, you know that we sell it to the grid, correct? And we buy it. It doesn't work that way, correct?
I think this is something different than that. This is getting paid for
what we're selling, right?
Correct. I'm just emailing these responses to our electrical department, to our senior electrical and Mike Chambers as well, to get their feedback on it.
when they think, if they look at those conditions in Articles 4 and then 5 is also the obligations. to purchase and sell the Z-Rex. I mean, just what they think the time frame should be.
Mm.
And then I think we just do need to know, since one of those is that the buyer has received the regulatory approval, is where they are in that process, because we may be ready by July 1st. We want to make sure they're
Right, right, right,
Right.
right, right, right.
Okay, just a very simple question. So are we obligated to sign the contract on October 21st?
That was my understanding. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I
unless we
think
get an
Paul's gonna find that
extension.
out, right?
I'm gonna find that out for sure.
Yeah.
That's what it appears, but I want to make sure about that, whether that's a hard and fast deadline or it can be pushed off a little bit.
Right.
when did we get the contract?
Last week?
Yeah, just last week.
It hasn't been a whole lot of time.
Yeah, I think as you know, as soon as we received that, Dennis and I sat down, and then Mindy sent the packet out to you
Right,
all.
right, right. Yeah.
And you sent it out to the attorney. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a whopper.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
Paul, see if you can get an extension. Paul, see if you can get an extension.
And I guess the question is going to be what we do tonight, not knowing the answer to that, or do we need to be ready to have another meeting in the next few days if we have to
Yeah,
do it?
right.
Because
right.
wouldn't it be Shipman and Goodwin that has to, they're basically saying they could push back to make the payment for the deadline of, push back against the October 21st deadline, but, right? I mean.
Yep. Yeah,
they're
he's
gonna
willing to if we advise him to do that, then that's definitely what he'll do.
Yeah.
That he'll push back on. I want to say it was, and I just lost it. I had it on my screen. Where'd it go?
I could try to push back if you would like, but the deadline is October 21st.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the
And-
response. So,
yeah.
So that being said, I mean, we should if we do not, we're not approving this tonight, we want to see if we can change that date. We would probably have to make a time next week to kind of, zoom in and approve it so we can move it forward.
Yeah, although
Right.
I'm not sure he was suggesting pushing back that date. He was saying if we want changes, they would have to be negotiated and done in order to meet that date. So.
Right. One of
'cause
the things that he suggested in my conversation with him late this afternoon was, if the committee is not looking to move forward with an approval of this, that you could move to give me permission to sign when all of those amendments are made. I will not be offended if you choose not to do that. I'm happy to do it, but I just want to put it out there that if that is something the committee is not comfortable with, I do not take offense to that at all.
I like that idea because, I'm glad I have Tony and other people and Jim and Paul and you, but it says here, this is the standard program agreement and has been reviewed by Pura. And, all of these things that authorize deadlines and so forth, there might be a caveat there if we don't do sort of the standard procedure. So I would, and if that's okay, after we get answers to our questions, I would like for Sharon to have authorization to go ahead and sign it. I mean, she could shoot us an email and say, I just got this in. Is it a go? Yes or no? Or if you needed that, or if she said, okay, everything's fine, I can sign it.
I would certainly want to run it by you all with the changes that have been.
Right. And
I mean, I think the question is, Sharon, I know what you're saying, but I also don't want you to be kind of hanging out there either. I think it's easy. I think we could probably have a special meeting next week if we have to have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would prefer to do that way because that way you're not making any judgment calls and you get our sign off.
I am totally good with that. Do we want to set a date right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm flat
Well,
out.
Tuesday's out, Wednesday's out, so.
Yeah.
that
When is the
leaves
21st? What date is that?
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
It's a week from today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about Monday?
Monday, the 19th.
I could do it.
I
Will
can
that
do it.
give, I'm wondering if that gives, because tomorrow's Thursday, so that gives
yeah.
Matt just a 2 work days, or technically 3 work days, but we can't guarantee that he's gonna have the answer he wants by Monday.
Well, one of the things is if he can get an extension beyond the 21st, we don't have to do that meeting. You know, that
Right.
should be the
Right.
first ask.
Right.
Another thing that you guys should be thinking about is it says that payment is also due by the 21st, which means that finance is going to need to be able to process that as well.
I
Exactly.
didn't hear that.
What's the other thing that's
Yeah.
needed?
Payment, you have to approve payment for finance to be able to get that to them by the 21st might be an issue.
Oh.
Huh.
Yeah. That might be an issue no matter what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if they can get an extension. And in the meantime, let's set something up for Monday. So we
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
some sort of an opportunity
Yeah.
to,
Regroup
about it.
before, yeah.
yeah.
And if we could get that pushed pushed forward a bit after that, then that would be great, as opposed to 19.
Right.
All right.
Can we, or should we have a finance meeting at the same time or immediately following the building meeting on that Monday?
To approve the payment, you mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
to do that.
Following.
Yeah,
Yeah.
following.
So do that at 6:30 and then immediately following it, whatever that time is, or do we have to set a set time?
Or
I think we have to
different-
a set time.
This at a time, yeah.
Okay,
So maybe 6:30 and 7:30?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we get an extension, we can always postpone those.
We can
meetings if
postpone the
need to.
meetings,
Right.
yeah.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay.
So Sharon, you know, on that one you were just referring to when he was talking about the fact that because of the date, and this is a standard form agreement, they probably wouldn't be able to get, you know, I was just saying that if they're going to move this to another, if they want to sell their rights, they say we'll cooperate with them in whatever we need to do to let them do that. And I had asked that it be clear that that's at their cost and expense, not to us. And he said, well, they would normally ask for that. This is a standard contract, and they doubt that we could get it. I don't know, Jim. Is it worth asking for? I'd really like to make it clear that, you know, we'll cooperate with you, but we did a contract with you. If you want to change, you know, if you want to sign it, and you have to, and there's costs that we have to incur to do that. We want to be.
No, I agree with you, Tony. The worst that can happen is that they say no. You know, in the
Yeah.
meantime, there's no harm in asking.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that on that one we should ask for that. That's the one.
Article 13?
No, that's the Article 5,
Article
pages
5.
14 to 16,
Got it.
Yep, okay.
Yep.
and then the interconnection agreement again. That has to be in place when the delivery term starts. So that could be July. But so I just want to know where that is. And he said, okay, what did he say on that? He said, just that we should have a draft of it.
Draft of it, yeah.
And then the next one is, the change of the facility, because it said we can't make any changes. And so it says deviation from the specs in the cover sheet. I was just worried about the fact that, you know, how broad a concept was changed. If we decided somewhere during the term to expand the number of panels on the roof for some reason, would that be a change that would put us in default? I don't know.
Is that a question? Would that be a question for Paul? Because, you know, when the number of, you know, with something like that, where you know, you've estimated how many plates can actually be, or panels can actually be accommodated by the roof surface. Is that something that might change? And then would it change our status?
I don't think we would foresee it changing, but that's a good question. If this was a successful project and you wanted to expand, if there are any repercussions from the contractor signing.
Yeah.
that.
Would that be a change that falls within this provision?
Exactly.
Because I mean, it could be that there's new technology and things that could allow us to expand our system, and we might want to do that. And 15 years is a long time.
It's a long time.
Agreed, and something we should be able to provide you an answer with.
Okay.
So
Does
that was the
impacted
article.
I'm sorry, is that impacted by the Z-Rex? Are we limited by that? Is that one of the, so if we added panels, would that increase our production?
That's
But
right.
They're only
But
agreeing
we're
to
limited
buy.
to-
They're only agreeing to buy the 518, and even
Right.
if they produce more. So I guess the question would be: would that be a separate project? Maybe we could characterize that as a new project rather than a change. But I'd like to get there.
Yeah. What constitutes a change? I
In
guess
that
would be the
regard.
question.
Yeah.
Right, I just stand back and looking at it, our current wiring is sized to the current panels, so adding more panels to that, parallel system of the electrical gear would change the whole project scope. But like you said, you could have wind power, some other technology coming down the road, maybe fuel cell or something like that, that we may want to add into the system.
Yeah.
Is a good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot.
So then the next one was the events of default and remedies. My understanding is we're not going after any rebates or grants from the Connecticut Green Bank or anybody else, are we? Because we can't.
There,
this agreement.
let's see. I want to say, Dennis, didn't Mike Chambers respond to that question
Yeah, he did.
this
Paul-
afternoon?
We didn't really know if we had done, I thought we had talked about something about this, or had done something on this with,
Yeah, that was my question I was trying to ask before. How specific is our draft of the interconnection agreement?
Well, we don't have it yet.
So according to Mike, he states that we do have a grant from the state as brought up under 4.1.8. It is still acceptable under that section, and we've done multiple
okay.
projects in the past where we've gotten a state grant and still was able to apply for the ZRAC.
all right,
Oh, so it carves that out?
okay, it must.
This is Michael Chambers' responses.
It says, for purposes of the clarification, the prohibition includes grants or rebates from CEFIA or CEF, but does not include projects that receive only pre-development and or feasibility funding from the Green Bank.
Right.
Financing in accordance with, so I guess that section then over at Article 13, events of default. Let's see.
Oh, it's,
Where does it have that? It says you can't.
Yeah, so he's asking us to confirm with you, Paul, that we have not received any such incentives.
Okay.
It does carve out the section 4.18 in 13.2.1. So yeah, I just need to make sure because those were certain kinds, pre-development,
right.
and that we wouldn't, or we just didn't need to know we can't in the future either. So, and then the other question there that I had was, there is a no consequential damages provision for both parties. There's not a liquidated damages provision. I just get a little bit worried when someone like us, we don't have unlimited. I mean, I don't know what they could claim if it's other than consequential. Actual damages we haven't, but it always makes me a little bit nervous when we don't have an open pocketbook that we can to not have a liquidated damages clause. But I think he said it's not going to happen. I think we just have to deal with it.
Tony, maybe get it specifically limited to actual damages. I mean, no consequential damages, That
What
leaves
they
the
have-
door open to interpretation. If you just limit it to actual damages.
What they have
and we get a
now-
change, yeah.
What they have now is that there is, with Article 16.1, limitation of liability. Neither seller nor buyer shall be liable to the other for any consequential, incidental, punitive, exemplary, or indirect damages, lost profits, or business interruption, whether by statute and tort or otherwise, under any indemnity provision or otherwise. It would be nice if they could say actual, if they specifically said that, but that pretty much covers everything but actual.
Yeah, it does.
And that also limits, I didn't realize that before, that also limits the indemnification provision as well. Because that was the other one that I had a little bit of concern about. And again, I think his comment there was, we're probably not going to be able to get anything.
Right,
And how would you figure out the liquidated damage amount in any case?
Yeah, you probably don't. I mean, if it's actual, that seemed pretty broadly to carve out pretty much everything but actual damages. I think we're probably okay. And then what he said on the
$50.
50, yeah.
that was Tim's question. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was surprised that it was so low too, but he did, you know, his explanation, you know, kind of talks about the fact that it's been pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And that we apparently agreed.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I was just going to take a look at the language in that indemnification provision again. I can't find it right now, just to see how broad that's worded. Oh, it's part of the miscellaneous, I think. Yeah. So we're indemnifying the party affiliates, directors, officers, employees, agents, and permitted from any and all third-party claims, losses, injuries, liabilities, damages, judgments, awards, fines, arising out of or alleged to arise out of any event or circumstance first occurring or existing during the period when control and title to the products is vested in such party. Survives the expiration or termination. At least I'd like to have a sunset on it, Jim. You know, it doesn't go on forever. If they don't raise a claim within a year after the agreement ends.
Or 6 months.
6 months. Maybe we should at least try to ask for that we can put a sunset on it.
Yeah. I agree.
Sharon, maybe you could go back on that indemnity question, and which was the one,
That's
Article
16.1.
18.11,
Oh,
18.11, open-ended indemnification.
Mhm.
He said we could ask for it. We doubt if we got, maybe you should just ask for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, if we can get a limit, and if not, at least get a sunset on it that says if they haven't raised an indemnification obligation within 6 months after the contract period ends, that, you know, they basically, if they have any, they have to figure out what they are and make them.
Mhm.
We don't want this hanging around 20 years later, you know?
Yep.
Well, you'd run into statute of limitations, but.
Yeah, but we wouldn't want to
still.
hang it
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
They ought to be able to
1
figure
year.
out when the contract ends if they give them a short period of time. Let's at least ask for any limit, if he can ask for a limitation of indemnification and a sunset of, 3 to 6 months after the contract ends.
1 week.
We'll never get a week, but
We
even
went
if we
from a
start with
year
6 months and
to
we get a
6
year, that'd be
months.
good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, even if we end up with a year. I mean, we
Yeah,
just want to be
year is
able
better than
to,
nothing.
we want to be able to close the books on this at some point and just say,
Right,
it's done. There's nothing that can happen. Otherwise, you've got a contingent liability.
Yeah, yeah,
for-
yeah.
You're right. You're
For the
right.
statute of limitations.
Got it. I think he's expecting my phone call tomorrow.
Okay. Well,
After all of this, he's like, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
but I think you're right. I think we're all right. The biggest thing is, can we, we got this kind of late and there's a lot of things up in the air. If we can,
Yeah.
is it possible to move that 21st date?
Mhm. Yeah, that's job one. If they're willing to push it forward, just even just a little bit, because I understand that their urgency is that there are other folks in the pipeline for this deal, so to speak, and they're looking for our commitment to the program. So I totally understand that, but I agree. We received this late, and in order for us to do our due diligence, we're gonna need a little more time. And they have to get their ducks in a row about some of this stuff too.
Mhm.
Even a week,
Yeah, even a week.
Yep.
It's just,
I was saying even the 28th, yeah, right, would be great, yeah.
it's just a really short period of time. And there are a number of things we still need to get answers on, and we want to try to negotiate a couple of them. So.
That is reasonable.
Anything else?
I believe there's a payment application for.
Oh, yeah, for Shay, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. I meant on this particular.
Oh.
So I just want to say thank you very much, Tony, for going over this agreement with a fine tooth comb and asking all these specific questions. It's
And
great.
Tim.
Like
Tim.
Tim too, yeah.
And Tim.
And Tim, you know,
Yeah, I
looking
know.
at these things very carefully for us. I really, really appreciate it. I would have glossed over quite a while ago. So I appreciate that.
Helps to have lawyers.
And having the best interests of 3 to 19 and us, is wonderful. So thank you. Thank you.
15 years is a long commitment.
Yeah.
So
It is, yeah. And you're right. A lot of things can change in 15 years. I mean, look what's changed already. Yeah.
I appreciate questions from those of us that are not legal scholars, because you get to see how many holes are in these contracts.
Yes.
They have done due diligence on, but then there's, they forgot to tell us the cost they want or whatever.
Well, there is one other factor just to keep in mind, and that is that probably the last thing Eversource wants to do is to, I don't know if it's to bankrupt a public high school, too, you know?
You have more confidence.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Or screw us over anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I totally agree with that.
Well, they may play hardball, but they're not going to want you to, they're not going to push you to the point where you're just,
Yeah.
It's amazing what the CEOs have done recently.
Well, with PURA having a better, maybe some more power, that might help too. We haven't had
Also,
any
I guess that, I know Susan's been dealing with the new or current
Pura?
director of Pura, and she's very happy with her. She's much more
good to hear.
consumer friendly, and not just an industry,
person.
Yeah. Yes,
So
man. Yes, person. Yeah.
Of course, in 15 years, who knows what we'll have, but for now.
May be no Eversource at that point.
Yeah.
Is there
Or
some
us.
sort of provision? I mean, if Eversource,
they can sell it.
Okay.
That's right. That was where we were talking about. We don't want to be hit with any costs because they're asking us to cooperate if they decide.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Thank you. Thanks.
God.
All right. So we have a construction bill to review and approve from J.E. Shea Electric.
Right.
Paul, do you want to make any comments or?
Well, we have reviewed it and it is acceptable to us. Certainly represents the value of work that's been done.
Okay. I have a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay. Any
pay the bill.
discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I know Sharon, you mentioned something about our
Other,
bond is coming up under other business. Did you want to say anything more about?
no, I think it was pretty much just the heads up that, this circumstance is happening in regards to the roofing side with Greenwood, and that, we're in the process of getting, them to a point where we have that completion documentation so that we can move forward. The only other thing that I had for other was next meeting, and we took care of that. So we have our next meeting will be planned for 10/19 at 6:30 with a finance committee meeting afterwards. At that point, we might have an update on the bonding piece as well, and what the timeline would be for any of the documentation that we might need. The goal is to get that done as soon as possible so that we don't run into any any major challenges. And if we do have the meeting, if we are able to get some of our answers, or if we don't have to reschedule, if we get an extension and we're able to extend by a couple days, I'll put that out to you guys to make that decision. But otherwise, we'll plan for the 19th. And I'll ask Charmaine to attend if she has any updated information to fill us in, because she's been working specifically with the state and the bonding folks
Okay.
around that whole piece. She spent the last couple weeks trying to square things away and get things figured out.
Good. Thank you. Anything else? Paul, Dennis, anybody else?
No, hey, Paul, how do we get Lucian Greenwood to get their act together with their paperwork? I mean, we've asked for paper. What do we hold that we can hold back? I mean, we asked for them change order invoices. We suspected they would have them in. We warned them that the 7th was the cutoff date prior to the meeting so we can review it. That didn't happen. They seem to drop in the ball, and I know Steve's been sending them emails. He CCs you. I tell them to get it together. What leverage do we have to get them to get it together?
Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of leverage. I mean, we're holding money, and that's the most critical component of it.
Yeah.
I think it's simply just having a very stern discussion with them about the need to get this done quickly because of these circumstances, the bonding, et cetera. I don't know that they realize that, and I think to put it all in front of them and to give them the big picture will help our cause. We've worked with them on a lot of projects, so I'm hopeful that they can come through with this quickly. But again, it's going to take some pushing on our part.
Yeah, I think they've got too many jobs going on or something. They're very busy and they're not focusing on this little pieces that we've got left hanging. But we just want to get it. Yeah, we just want to get it moving. And Steve's been great trying to. We gave him today to get everything in. And it still trickles in. So.
Dennis, can we have an in-person meeting just with all the players? Can we just have an in-person meeting?
We could do that.
Are they local? I mean, at this point, and I guess my question, not being a legal person or a construction person, what kind of leverage do we have in holding them accountable for first of all the delays? Because they were supposed to be done at the end of August. And we had that conversation way back when, number one. And number two, not coming through with their paperwork has delayed any type of documentation of the completed roof project. So if we end up having to extend our bond, it costs us money.
Yeah.
And that's on them.
Yep.
Correct. And that's actually, Sharon, that's a great idea to put it in those terms, because clearly if it costs you money, then that is an invoice that you send directly to them and they should know that's coming. That will put a fire under them.
Oh, yeah.
If there's not a financial burden like that, then it's ambiguous and they won't have that incentive.
And
so
is there
we will include that.
Is there any documentation that goes through when they're going for other bids that, that there are projects that have gone down this road where it was less than enjoyable? I'm being really nice today. My filter's on.
There are criteria that they have to meet. One, obviously they want to avoid all lawsuits because they have to document those and usually have to declare those for future bids. The other thing is, have they completed projects on time? Which is a little subjective because once you have a change order on a project, then automatically they document the additional time in their labor and in the change order, which pushes the completion date by contract. So it's a little bit of a slippery slope. Usually, unless there is hard and fast evidence that we can bring a case against them for being late, and then we usually don't go in that direction. But I think this is the first step for us really, is to talk about the potential for additional charges to the district, and that those are a direct result of not being able to close out.
I'd have to check this, but I know, and I think we got it, Jim, didn't we? I think we asked for time is of the essence, and I think they agreed to it,
Yeah.
which gives us additional sort of leverage to make that argument that, we needed this to be done on time, and we're not going to terminate the contract, but we have these additional burdens. We could have these additional burdens on us. So I
Well,
would
and-
check, but I think we
I
got
don't
it.
remember if we had that, Tony, but if we have a time is of the essence, as you know, we can certainly go back and push for damages if
Yes.
the time is not met.
Dennis
I'll have to
has
look.
documentation.
We
of-
might have gotten it. I think we asked and sort of thought it was throwing it up as a prayer, and I'm not sure. I think we might have actually gotten it in the contract. I'll have to go back and look, or if you have the final contract with Greenwood there, it's, we can check and see if there is a time that if we had.
But even if we don't, if
Even if we don't.
anything were to come up and we were to have to extend our bonding, which would cost us
Yes.
money, then we certainly have the specter of a lawsuit, whether
Right.
they think that they're liable for that or not. The prospects of a lawsuit become far more pronounced, and that would certainly be a threat for us to make.
Yes. I just think that having that in the contract just gives us a contractual basis
Oh, yeah.
for
That'd be
making
better.
that claim.
Could we send an explanation of our concerns regarding the bonding? Not a veiled threat, but, just this is our position, or is that not advisable?
All Paul would have to do at this point is just to let them know that we have a deadline for purposes of our bonding. And if the bonding if we have to extend it and incur costs, then of course we would be looking to them for reimbursement of those costs. So it's really imperative that they get to us what we need ASAP.
Well, that's the explanation, and we do it through Paul. There we go.
Is there a hard and fast deadline that I should
Yeah.
be aware of in December?
Yeah.
I don't have that exact date. I can get it for you, but we would
Okay.
have to have it approved. In order to get the information to the state, bonding folks, we need to have it in front of the board. So our next board meeting, in November, is when all of that finished, that we'd have to accept the completion of the project in order for it to go forward.
And that
So-
meeting is the 10th, right, of November.
Yes.
Yes.
Or it will be.
See,
One or
Sarah,
the
I
other.
told you that date came up.
I know. I'm just wondering if it's official.
It will be.
It will be, right? Yeah, we'll have to we'll find the minutes where that change was made.
I think it was
But-
May or April. It was
Okay.
maybe, I'm not positive, but I do remember that.
Yeah, that's great, because then we won't have to, we can just move it on the calendar and it's already all set because it's been approved. If not, Jim and I I'm sorry, Mark, I can't even talk today. Jim and I talked about it earlier. Mr. Marks.
No S.
I'm gonna do that forever now.
I know.
Jim and I talked a little bit about it earlier because it was on my calendar for the 3rd and I couldn't find the minutes. So we'll find it, and if not, we'll cancel and have a special meeting on the 10th anyway. So either way, it'll be the 10th.
Okay. Still a short period of time.
Yeah,
So that would be our drop dead date, that we would need to have all that stuff approved. We'd have to have it in from Greenwood and approved.
November.
They got to get their invoices in that they've been collected to get in. They'd have to get the invoice for that, get that wall screen up and invoiced. There's a lot to do still. I kind of warned them ahead of time a long time ago through Steve that the storm was coming before the school started. And then we emphasized that the bonds were going to be an issue and get the paperwork in.
There was a lot of communication, Dennis, I think that you had with the folks way back when, and we actually have documented timelines that they've sent through emails of when the expected completion of certain components of the job were supposed to be done, and it was prior to when students were going to be in the building. So
Definitely.
it's documented.
Always that, yes. It was always prior to students being back in the building. Yeah.
Although if I could point out just a clarification, when we talked about the project being done before the students came back, that really was the roofing operations, meaning the ripping off of the roof and the installation of the new roof over the building. To close out a contract usually takes months following that. So it's not unheard of for construction to be complete in the end of August and not to be closed out until 4 to 6 months later. We see that in many of our contracts. They usually take their time in closing out, getting all the paperwork and everything documented before the committees officially vote to approve final payment and to close out the contract. So to tell Greenwood that they have to close out their contract by November 10th is a very, very short time frame. Even though they are essentially complete with all their work at this point, the fact that we're giving them a punch list potentially next week, I just want to make sure that, we're going to have to really work hard to get this done this month.
Paul, you have substantial performance, and that's what they've done to this stage of the game. So they're entitled to payment, but at the bottom line is, at this point, because of the delays, foreseen or unforeseen, we now are in a position where we could end up with additional costs, especially if we have to extend the bond, assuming we can even do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely becomes an issue, regardless of substantial performance, that needs to be thrown back at them and let them know that, we understand, but at the same time, if it costs us money, it's going to cost you money.
Yeah.
Understood. We'll put it in those terms.
Yeah.
Well, I just hope that they can't come back and say, well, we don't have any formal, reference to that point, to those points.
That's what courts are for.
Well, I guess you should know.
I mean, you don't want to go there, but
No.
that's
Well,
where it
we
ends
don't.
up if
Yeah.
you can't come to an
Yeah.
understanding.
Somebody enjoys doing that stuff, but I mean, like,
Not me.
yeah, I kind of, that's why I came up with something that's not a threat, but just an explanation of our point.
Yeah. you know,
Well, we
to
could
threaten
always
it.
share, we could always say, to share with them that the lawyers on our building committee have suggested.
Yeah, that's a little,
That's a little threatening.
yeah. But I don't know. I've been told subtlety is lost on people, so maybe written or spoken to doesn't make that much difference.
Yeah.
I'm sure Paul can frame it diplomatically, but
Yes.
the bottom line
Yes.
is just to let them know that
Okay.
we're facing a deadline. We understand that
Yeah.
it puts pressure on them, but at the same time, if it turns out that they can't meet the deadline and we end up incurring additional costs or expenses, assuming we can even extend the bonding, then, we have to look to them for recourse.
Right,
That's what it comes down to.
right.
Okay.
All righty. Thanks, everybody, for your hard work. Really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yes. Yes.
Lovely to see you again.
Yeah.
We're gonna be seeing each other a lot this month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monday,
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah.
So I'll take a motion to adjourn. If there's no other business.
So move.
Okay, Nancy, Sarah's gonna put up her hand, second. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah.
good night.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Night.